Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our Female Founder Series. I'm really excited today to have our guest, Laurie Cadigan, who is the CEO and owner of Barrett Sotheby's International Realty. Thank you so much for being here, Laurie.
Thrilled to be here.
And I'm really excited to have you here because you've been in the business a really, really long time. You started off as independent, but you did end up affiliating with Sotheby's and are one of the most well-known Sotheby's companies, especially in the Northeast. So can you give us a little bit of background, take us back in time to how you got into real estate and how you got to where you are today?
Oh, absolutely. I had my real estate license when I graduated from college because I had a college roommate that said we both were jobless, and her mother was in real estate, and she said, worst case, why don't you just get your real estate license? Maybe you can, do some rentals and it was the last class in Massachusetts you could take to become a broker without apprenticing first. So she thought it was a great idea. To this day, my buddy laughs because she's never used her real estate license, and I've done, amazing things with mine. And every time I either make a move professionally or open an office, because at the time when she said to me, let's get a real estate license, I said to her, what in God's name would we want our real estate license for? And so every time I make a major move in my career or something wonderful happens, she sends me flowers with the note that says, and what in God's name would you want your real estate license for? So um, it's a funny story. So I had my real estate license. I went into high tech for 10 years, realized that high tech was a very high stress role, especially after I had had my first child. So I decided that I was going to step back from high tech. I'd always loved real estate. I thought I could be a designer someday. I was a theater major in college. So, excuse me. So I was a theater major in college, and the whole real estate plan looked like a great idea. So I stepped into real estate when my son was probably 15 months. And I sold real estate for several years. I loved selling real estate because it's a problem-solving kind of plan. I've got a very bigger-than-life personality. I love design. It was just a great plan. But my husband had decided that he was going to make some changes in his career. And so I approached the gentleman I worked for at the time and said, I'm thinking I'm going to have to get a real job now. Can't be just like part-time real estate. I'm going to have to do something, bigger than that. He offered me a position in his mortgage company. I told him that I thought it was very interesting that I couldn't even balance my checkbook, never mind, but his plan was, Laurie, you can sell ice to the Eskimos. It's selling money. It's selling houses. It doesn't really matter. So I stepped into the mortgage business, and I stayed there for 11 years. I became their top producing mortgage officer, then their sales manager, and then the vice president of the mortgage company. When I realized that we had gotten so big that I had my third child, I was actually recruiting loan officers in Mystic, Connecticut when I had, this is a real true female story. A call from my daycare center that said my son was running 104 fever, and, where are you? And I'm 2.5 hours away in Mystic, Connecticut, and realized that this is not, this has gotten bigger than just a part-time job. So I came back to Concord, which is where we were living at the time, and a sales management job in real estate opened up. I stepped into that, and then eventually ended up moving to another company and becoming the general manager for another residential real estate company. Opened a Carlson real estate office for GMAC. So I kind of bounced around for a while being a real estate manager. And the companies had gotten so big that I had lost sight of the great culture from the first company I'd worked for. And I decided that I was going to become a realtor again, like just sell real estate, because my kids were thinking of, they were looking at colleges, and my agents were working at home in their fuzzy slippers. And I thought that would be a great plan. So I called Jane Barrett at the time, who was my number one competitor in Concord. And I said, I would like to leave these big brands, and I just want to, sell some real estate. She thought I was crazy, but very happy to have me. So I joined her, and a couple years in, a lot of people would call and say, we'd like you to open this, or we'd like you to add this. And, I was really very happy in her company. I didn't really want to leave. But once you are sort of a rainmaker, other companies feel like you can come and make rain for them. So I approached her one day. This is a very long-winded story how I got into the real estate and owned the company. I approached her one day and I said, Zip Real Estate has called me and Keller Williams has called. I'd like to stay in your company, and I think you really need more offices. I think you should would you franchise an office to me in Acton? And she thought about it for a couple of days. She came back and she said, I cannot franchise an office to you because I really want to sell you the whole company. And I almost fell off my chair. And that's exactly how it happened. So that was in 2007. I said to her, look, I've got kids going into college. I don't know how I'm going to, she said, we're going to make this work. And, she was much older than me at the time and was looking for a successor, and her children were not ready to step in. And so I bought the company in 2007 and was very haughty about the fact that we didn't need a big brand, because I had been with those big brands and we were good, until my agents started losing listings and having difficulty competing with some of the companies that were pushing that they were international and larger footprints. And so the only brand that I considered at the time, and would ever consider, frankly, was the Sotheby's brand, because we are a very luxury, high-end boutique agency in a very affluent collection of communities. And the brand just has opened amazing doors for us, and I used to say to them, we're more Sotheby's than Sotheby's, but they just provide the services, the tools, the network, the passion for real estate in this market that we were looking for. So it's been a great marriage. That was in 2012. We added a couple of more companies since my ownership. So at this point now, Jane had 3 locations at the time when I bought the company, 24 agents. We have 6 locations. I think we're soon to have another one. And 169 agents. So that's how I got into real estate, and that's how I happen to be the owner of this company.
Wow, what an amazing story. I love that from early on, it was, people saw the potential in you, your friend. It was a joke,
Right.
and it also was true.
That's the answer. It was just a very, and she continues to chuckle about it. She's never kept her license up. She's in software development and what have you, but yeah, it's been a very long-standing joke of ours that I really didn't want to get into real estate. Had no idea what would become of it, and look where this career has taken me.
Yeah. Well, and you seem to be so in touch with what you need to, and good at, even when you went back to being, to selling, always sort of pursuing what you needed. And so I'm curious if you can talk about now as a leader and having these 169 agents under you, what this year has looked like with the pandemic and with their needs changing, and also possibly your needs, and kind of how you view leadership in general, but then especially in a year like this year.
Right. I've been in the business 32 years, and I have to tell you, I'm sure that every CEO and most people will tell you, we were so unprepared for anything of this magnitude, right? You could not, there was no management 101 classes to teach you how to get through a pandemic. My biggest concern when the entire wave happened was my staff and my agents. How are we going to keep the company afloat? How are we going to make sure that we could provide the support to our employees? And also, how would the agents manage? Thank goodness Governor Baker, who is, the governor of Massachusetts, deemed us essential almost immediately. But then it was all about, how do we keep the safety of our agents? How do we make sure that, we literally took 20 people, employees, staff that had been supporting, that was 160 agents, and turned them remote in 3 days. I can't applaud my husband enough, who is our CTO, our controller, our vice president. He's got the technology plan. We were able to move all of those people home and work remotely. Who would have thought? He used to joke, dabbling once upon a time, thinking that I would take Wednesdays and work from home. And I was convinced that I could not do it. There was no way it was going to happen. So after the first month of being at home, he said to me, "You couldn't even take Wednesday home, and look at you running the whole company from home." So I think it has opened our eyes as leaders to what's possible. Stop thinking in the box, start thinking about the possibilities. What kind of space do you really need? What kind of staff do you really need? And frankly, how do you make it work in a very uncertain time when economically we're not really sure what's going to happen in the fourth quarter? I mean, I've had friends that have said to me, "Gee, real estate's doing great." Well, yes, in the suburbs, real estate is doing great, but we don't have enough inventory because people are nervous about putting their homes on the market or letting people into their homes. So we're selling like hotcakes to the massive amount of buyer demand, but it's still a rough road. So I think what I've learned, and I'm sure that other people have learned, is how to pivot, how to be a leader that can pivot.
Yeah. Well, and I like that you just mentioned that, it's not smooth sailing ahead, even as well as the market has done in real estate. Thank goodness we're not in the hotel industry or the airline industry right now.
No,
You still are focused on that future and what you need to do. So you mentioned your new office, your new location. I'm curious what else, if you can look ahead to the next couple of years, knowing you don't have a crystal ball, what else are some of the things you think you need to and want to do to get past this time and to continue to grow among adversity too?
we have grown very carefully. Many companies have been faulted for growing too quickly. I think that we cover the greater Boston area in a wonderful way. My agents continue to add communities that we service onto their organic growth all the time. There were opportunities through the pandemic of people who knew that it's very difficult to manage, one or two or three office locations as a real estate company. And frankly, we've had relationships with people who have reached out to us to say, "Gee, would this be a good time for us to collaborate?" And we'd never turned down an opportunity that sounded like a good plan and was part of our strategic plan. So I think that we're going to continue to grow respectfully and carefully. We're obviously growing every day by adding new agents to our existing locations. I think that there are things that can be done in the real estate business that might be, more cutting edge in the future related to showing properties. My agents will laugh because I was one of the first owners that came back from a conference probably 4 years ago and said, "No, we have to buy this Matterport camera." And they looked at me like I was out of my mind. People are not going to look at properties, by pushing a little dot around that. And thank goodness, we not only bought our first camera, but through the pandemic, we bought our second camera. I hired a videographer on staff years ago who's been doing our commercials and our videos. And so we were prepared when other companies were just stunned. I mean, how do we show properties to people that are out of state or that don't feel comfortable? Or how do you weed down buyers to just, select the properties that they really definitely need to see in person? So I think we just, plow forward with new technology in that area.
I'm glad that you mentioned the response that you got with Matterport in particular, because being a leader, sometimes means not pleasing everyone and having confidence in things that are unknown. So I'm curious how you have sort of stayed ahead. You have been a trendsetter in a lot of ways, and yes, cautious, and also, able to spot what's the real next thing versus what's just buzz. So how do you do that? How do you stay informed? Do you have peer groups? Are you reading things? Like, what are your tips for others
Right.
on that?
There is so much to read online that you'd spend the day reading new trends, new opportunities, new blog posts, new podcasts. I mean, you'd go crazy. I believe in the Realtor Association. I was the state president and also the Greater Boston board president for several years. We have an amazing resource in that association of collaboration with other agencies, and they invite new technologies and new ideas to come to the forefront, and sort of place them in front of us. I'm sad that, we have big associations not doing our conferences live this year. It was supposed to be in San Francisco, and that's kind of where you get the new ideas of technology companies rolling out new things. But just collaborating with real estate owners, the network itself is amazing at providing us what's happening and where they're taking us to. So it's just keeping us like any industry does.
Well, and I love that, you mentioned events because, of course, a lot of us are very eager for the days when we are able to meet again in person. But there are virtual events, virtual connections, and being affiliated with the Sotheby's brand. I think people are doing the best they can. Talking about virtual a little bit, you talked about marketing, the importance of video. I know you just redid your website. What are some other tools that you've used that have really helped you both stay connected with your agents virtually and also help them stay connected with their clients, buyers and sellers?
We have embraced a suite of products in fact, Union Street is very much in that fold of Moxie Works programs. Many of our agents never used a CRM. You find that hard to believe. We're in very high-end area. We should stay connected with our contacts, and they were still using their phone or index cards and what have you. So we provided the CRM for them. In addition, the CMA, which is typically our presentation in real estate, a competitive market analysis, we did. Moxie provides an amazing digital version of your paper 3-ring binder version. So that was something that we really we insisted that the agents get to know and learn. Campaigns that they have put out a couple times a month, we provide our agents with opportunities to send something amazing to their contacts. It's not always real estate related. The Sotheby's International Realty platform provides us cool things from the auction house. I will never forget that we got the most traffic of any campaign that we distributed when the auction house sold David Bowie's artwork. Maybe it was because my generation was all into David Bowie. I don't know what it was, but the David Bowie artwork sale was something that we had massive amounts of traffic on. Just the hits were unbelievable. So they provide us a lot of content. We're just trying to get our agents to stay relevant, provide fun things that remind people, hey, I'm in real estate, but also just make sure that they're continuing to stay connected.
Yeah, well, and I love that you mentioned that because it is about the lifestyle and the whole, that's part of why Sotheby's is so well known. I think where some of the other brands have faltered over the years, the national brands. So I'm curious because certainly staying connected with your sphere and, making sure they're referring business is important. And there's also hard data and hard goals that most owners and CEOs have for their teams and their growth. So beyond sort of just making sure that people are in touch with the market, they know what they're doing, do you buy into sort of productivity goals for your agents or your offices, or are you kind of more approaching it from if they're taking care of their customers, the business will come? How do you approach that and goal setting or not?
We definitely have provide not only for our agents staff, but we also embrace Larry Kendall Ninja program, which assists our sales associates in making sure that they're connecting with their sphere and are in the right frame, social media wise. And I think that's where we find that our agents can tend to meet their goals easier because they're not constantly reinventing the wheel trying to find new agents. They're finding the people that know and love them already. Larry Kendall's plan is, it's solution selling. It's not hard selling. Just stay connected with people and make sure that, you're providing great service and are the resource even after the sale, and business will follow, and that's how you set your goals. The goals are more related to how many times should I be, reaching out to folks that already know me and love me, and that, frankly, that's a whole lot easier to sell than it is to grab someone off of Zillow or off the sidewalk to, want to work with you.
Hmm. Yeah, and for your agents too. I think one of the things I really like about ninja selling and the concept is incorporating these daily and weekly habits into how you do your business.
That's right.
And once, I mean, it takes 21 days to make a habit, right? So once that habit is there, then it's there, and then it doesn't seem hard to take 15 minutes a day to clean up your database, or 2 hours a week to write some thank you cards. And so yeah,
Right.
I like that approach as well.
Start your morning with gratitude. That's the biggest issue, right? Let's be grateful for what we have, and then, the rest will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of gratitude, I want to talk a little bit about advice you provide your self maybe 20 years ago or however long
Oh,
ago.
my.
So, for all the aspiring Lauries out there, what would you say? What have you learned, and what do you wish you knew back then that you know now?
Way back then.
Yeah.
I think my success has been around my passion for people in real estate. I mean, I really am passionate about real estate. I still go out on opinions of value with my agents. I still help family members decide which communities they should be looking. I'm still very much entrenched and engulfed in the real estate element. I think if you find something that you love, then your satisfaction and the money will follow. I had, an owner that was a mentor of mine years ago, Dick DeWolf, who was very passionate about his business because he knew everybody's name in the company. He just was living the dream of being a very involved and active owner. I think that I have a daughter who's an incredibly successful managing director at an advertising agency. And I think that her success is because she's really passionate about the people that she works with and the industry that she's in. I think that unfortunately, sometimes now students graduate from college, they're not exactly sure what they're passionate about. An internship in several areas can help you fine tune exactly what makes you kind of want to get up in the morning and be grateful. So I'm lucky that I found something. And I will tell you, I think the 10 years in high tech showed me that I wasn't passionate about that. So I had to find something that I was passionate about, and I fell into real estate and have really never looked back. The industry has been very good to me.
That's wonderful. I was always raised with the message you're going to have four careers in your life. So,
Yeah,
don't
well,
worry if you have to switch gears. So I like that.
that's true. Well, frankly, I started in high tech. I thought I was going to be a theater. As a theater major, I was supposed to teach public speaking and theater in high school. That never happened. Then I went into high tech. That's my first career. Then I went to the mortgage business. That's my second career. Maybe I got another one in me. I don't think so. It's all good.
Well, I love that. So just a couple more questions, Lori. I'm curious because, you are an innovator, and we have talked about, you sort of spotting trends and doing things that others in your space haven't. Uh, if you could advise the whole industry on what next big thing they should do, or what's missing from the real estate industry or the business world today, what would you say?
One of the things that struck always strikes me now is that everybody's so much into leads, lead buying, lead sourcing, lead generating. Um, I think that we still need to understand that the basic human nature is all about people want to feel connected, loved, appreciated. I think that we can fault the millennial, if you want to call it that, they look online for a lot of their research. They're not as in tune to the wise old realtor giving them advice. I think that a lot of that comes from the fact that they have been on their phones and connected to their computers and playing video games, et cetera. I think that people eventually find that if you find a realtor or any service professional that really understands you, I mean, let's look at the relationships that we've established with Union Street Media. we're crazy about some of you guys because we've had conversations. We've been in the mix with you. We've had we've had some bumps and we've recovered from them, or, the relationships and the contacts and what have you. It's all about us. And, someone even reaching out today to interview me it makes me feel good, right? Makes me feel important, makes me feel like I'm valued in your eyes. So I think that we need to maintain that consistency and that human connection. That's really the only advice I've got. You can find a lot of things online, but you're not going to find a big fat hug online. You know what I mean? You want someone at the end of the day when you bought your first home to put their arms around you and say, oh my goodness, you're home and you did it and here you are. And you're not going to find that from my competitors that are online.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's a great book called Humans Are Underrated that I love. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I haven't read it. That's a good one.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy. And it's about, machines and artificial intelligence are gonna do some things better than humans, and we should embrace that. But ultimately, the message is that they can't replace everything. So we need to embrace the humanity that still exists and needs to exist.
Right.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Well, Laurie, last question, and this is a fun one. Tell our audience something they don't know about you. That's maybe something not real estate related. You've already told us about the theater, but what's something most people don't know?
The interesting thing that I usually say when people ask me this is that my sister is married to my husband's brother. So we have two sisters that are married to two brothers. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Information moves faster in the Cadigan family than on the internet because, you tell me, I tell you. I sing a little. My theater background's kind of still there. I have two adorable grandsons that are just the world to me lately. I look like a very hard-nosed businesswoman, but they just melt my heart. So those are a couple things that people might not know about me.
How old are they right now?
They're going to be 3 in a couple of weeks, and they are absolute terrors. They're adorable, but they're full of energy.
I love it. My daughter's going to be 3 on November 4th. So what's their birthday?
You know what that feels like. It's like they're all about it right now.
Oh, yeah. Attitude, but also very fun.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Laurie, for being with us. For everyone who joined us late, this is the Female Founder Series with Laurie Cadigan, owner and CEO of Barrett Sotheby's International Realty. And thank you so much for being here, Laurie. Stay tuned for next time, everyone. I'm Rachel Allard with Union Street Media. This was awesome. Thank you, Laurie. I definitely feel like you...
You know me a little better. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's wonderful that we have video. I do wish we were there. I was there in person, but this is the next best thing.
Okay.
And yeah, I just feel like people watching this will be very inspired by your pivots and your ability to really have conviction.
So the only thing I need to caution you about is that I'm wondering when this is going to get posted, because I don't want the fact that we could have another office soon out before I'm making announcements.
Sure.
What's the timeline for your posting?
We can post it whenever you want. Typically, so we have about 20 or so that are in the editing process, posting process, and we usually post a couple of weeks. So we probably wouldn't be posting it for a few weeks anyway. But Why don't you let me know, do you have a timeline for when you're going to announce the new office?
I think probably November 1st would be a good plan.
Okay.
Anytime after November 1st would be great.
Okay, I'll make a note of that in our tracking sheet and just make sure we don't post it before then.
Thank you.
Awesome. And I actually have 2 more questions since I have you. So one is just in my role, I'm actually not sure if you know this, but I used to be heavily involved in operations, the digital marketing side of things and customer success side of things. And after my son was born at the end of last year and I came back from leave, I've been focused more on our product. So I am curious if there's any feedback you have for me on the team and things we can do better, or just the platform and other things that you might need.
We have been very, very happy. Not only happy with the product, but happy with the people. We just did a whole refresh on our website. Things are going very, very well with us.
Okay, awesome. Well, if there's ever anything that you need, let me know. And I do know that you work with the Moxie team. Maddie and I have actually been closely in touch, and I am curious if you'd ever be willing to share that you work with both of us publicly, like in terms of a case study, if you feel
Absolutely.
like that'd be something. Okay,
Yep.
awesome.
Absolutely. No problem at all.
We love our relationship with them. It's definitely been really great. So I
Yeah.
know they don't, they're much more tailored towards larger companies like you, but we'd love for others to know about the value that they offer too. So
That'd be great.
awesome. Well, I will follow up. I'll send you an email with the information we'd like to share and just make sure you're okay with it. And then we'll hold off until the first. We have, like I said, we've been posting the videos we'll post it on your site too. So we'll send you some ideas for maybe it's just a blog post or maybe it's a separate page. But I definitely think it's good for your agents to see you talking to and,
I'm sure.
yeah. So
It was a great opportunity. Thank you.
you're
And I
welcome.
will, I'll thank everybody when when I see them for the opportunity to kind of be front and center with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lori. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Thanks again.
Bye.